Is there any way for money to buy you happiness?
The eternal question. So there's 5 things you can do with money. Number 1, you can buy stuff. Number 2, you can buy experiences. Number 3, you can buy time. Number 4, you can give it away. And number 5, you can save it. Those are the exhaustive possibilities of what you can do with money. 2 through 5 bring happiness. 1 doesn't. 1 is what you biologically have an imperative to do, is to go accumulate stuff, more of everything that shows that you're a successful person. However, if you buy experiences and experience these things with people that you love, you get happier. If you buy time and don't fritter it away, that you use it for your own edification or for the relationships in your life, you get happier. If you give your money to things that you're really passionate about, you get happier. And if you save your money, you get way happier.
I'm Mitch. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm honestly super anxious to be up here tonight, to be with you for week 2 of a series of messages that we have been calling The Plus Side. We've been calling it The Plus Side because we believe that there is a plus side to money. We also believe that money can be a source of tension. Maybe even tension for your faith journey. Maybe even tension for your journey with like a church. We want to talk about money in a positive light. So right up front, I want to say something very, very clear. It's a positive series about money. I want something for you, not from you. I believe that what the scriptures have to say about money can be a source of freedom and actually can give you an amazing perspective if you were to apply it for your life. Second, there is never a quid pro quo here. You don't have to do, say, give, be something in order to belong here. And third, I and we here at Suncrest, we always want to be leading you to becoming more like Christ, which might sound lofty. It might sound unattainable. It might sound like just this big open-ended challenge. But I think that if you were open to it tonight, you might see how it can make your life better and make you better at life. And last week, Greg, our lead pastor, talked about moving into a place where you are on top of your finances. Next week, we're going to talk about a really practical way for you to help your life and help your money have meaning. And it'll include us talking about the 4 steps in the journey of generosity. We call it the 4 R's, and it helps just show the journey of what it looks like from maybe being unintentionally not generous up here in the nether sphere, not on the TV, to trying it out for the first time as a rookie, to making it a habit in your life as a recurring giver, to actually reprioritizing your habits as a relational giver, and even making it a considerable part of your life as a radical giver. This has been a journey that my wife and I have been on for years. And honestly, it's been one of the most rewarding and frankly challenging things that we have ever done together. But this week, we're talking about something that if you were to do it now, it will save you later. And I don't just mean money. And honestly, it's actually why I'm anxious to be in front of you all today. This is probably a shock to all of you. I am not a financial guru. In fact, I'm just a great value hipster Monopoly man, insert picture here. Kara, get that off here now. I've made decent choices. And honestly, some choices that I am still paying for today, both literally and metaphorically. But in the context of being up here, of leading all of you, of leading myself, and trying to get us all to follow the wisdom and advice of Scripture about money, and to do it alongside Greg Lee, our amazing lead pastor, it is very overwhelming to me. And you might be like, I don't get it. Why? Well, here's the deal. Greg is like really good at money, like super good at money. And like, that's not me like inflating this. Like, he's super wise and discerning and disciplined. He had an IRA started at 17. I am truly just your average, run-of-the-mill Midwestern guy. I don't know what IRA actually stands for, and I'm being genuinely honest, and I do not want any of you to find me after and tell me because I love living in the mystery of that. Here's what I know, though. What we're talking about today is just as powerful and impactful as any lecture that you'll hear from Dr. Arthur Brooks from Harvard. He was the guy in the video before this. It'll be as insightful as any wisdom you might get from Greg. And it's because I've been actually seeing it at work in my own life. And I've gotten it wrong. That's actually one of my superpowers. I get it wrong, but I'm always willing to keep trying it again. And I've always seen how I get it right more and more. And so to be as upfront as I can, because I don't like secrets, and I don't want to leave you wondering, here's our wisdom for today. Determine your relationship with your money now, or your money will dictate it for you later. Determine your relationship with your money now, or your money will dictate it for you later. What do I mean by determine your relationship with your money? There are lots of ways that you can look at determining your relationship to your money, but the easiest way and the fastest way that we're going to do it tonight is I'm going to have all of you mentally fill in this blank. Money is blank. You could fill it in all kinds of ways. And for many of us, it probably looks in some fashion, some variation of all or one of these. So let's start here. Money is something I'd rather not think about. That's one way you could think about it. Brings stress, so I ignore it, and I hope that it's going to sort itself out, right? Or maybe it's like money is meant to be spent. Like it's for living in the moment, baby. Like don't stress about the future. Maybe for you, money's my peace of mind. The more I save is actually the only way that I feel safe. Maybe you're someone who's like, money is something that I have to hold on to and hold on tightly. Because, you can never know what's going to go wrong. So, I can't let any of it go willingly. Maybe money is how you prove your worth. It shows others and maybe even yourself that you have value. If I'm being honest, I wrestle in some form with all of these from time to time. Because spoiler alert here, I really like stuff. I like having money. I like not thinking about money when it's stressful. I like how I operate in the world when I have more than enough. But in the vacuum of not having a clearly defined relationship with money, your money will start to dictate a relationship for you. And honestly, you probably won't like where you end up. You end up in greed and strain, isolation, burnout, anxiety, debt, regret. Didn't I say this was a positive series? Well, yeah. So here's the positive that I do know, both from my own experiences, from the wisdom of Scripture. When contentment sets the pace, money finds its place. When contentment sets the pace, money finds its place. Finding contentment, sorry guys, it's just me. My face. Finding contentment can be such a weird thing, maybe a foreign thing for you and I, especially in the way that I operate within the world, right? There's ladders to climb, there's deals to make, there's things that I want now, thanks Amazon Prime. But what I know to be true is that when I let contentment set the pace of my relationships to the things in my life tends to work out better, and my faith journey tends to be more open to seeing God at work in me and through me. My wife, Jess, her and I bought the worst house in a great neighborhood a few years ago. That's really good financial advice, just so you know. And we did a lot of work to it. It was a step up for us. It was a step up financially. It was a step up in space. We had just had our first kid. And honestly, this was perfect next move for us. We moved in, we get settled, and then we slowly start to realize, the closets are a lot smaller than our old house. Oh, I thought there was more. And then it was this is actually less storage space in this house than in our old, smaller house. Oh, that wasn't fun to realize in the moment. But we made this house into the best version of itself that we could. We love this house. There's 3 of us in it. It's amazing. And then along came Cal, our 9-month-old. And all of a sudden, this house that we love is just really cramped. And there's more stuff. And there's more people. And gosh, I would love more storage. And so we start looking at homes, and it turns out the market's a little crazy. I don't know if you've seen any of that. And then I start looking into okay, if we can't buy a new home, remodeling, let's look at that. Well, let's remodel again. And it turns out materials are also crazy. I don't know if you've noticed any of that. And this house that we love, but it's just like a little cramped, suddenly it begins to feel like a cage. Like not our home. And I have the wants, and I want for more and bigger and better and shiny, and Zillow's always got my attention. It's so easy to fall into these patterns, right? Maybe not for you. I'll say it's just for me. The Apostle Paul knew, and he knew this, and he wrote a letter to a young church leader named Timothy to try to impart some of his wisdom and some of the wisdom that he had earned from following Jesus. And he writes this at the end of his first letter to Timothy. He says it this way: godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Really positive, right? So, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. So let me explain. Let me explain context for Paul, for Timothy, for this letter. First, Paul. He's the author of this letter. We know that historically, he was a Roman citizen and a Jewish religious leader. And in that time, being a Jewish religious leader actually meant that you were pretty set. Financially in your life, the things that you had, you were taken care of by the temple and by the Jewish people. Add to that, being a Roman citizen, having full rights within the empire, meant that he had access to property, to ownership, to land, to trade opportunities that honestly most other Jews did not have. He is double set. Paul knew success. He knew status. He knew what it was like to have. And on the opposite side, he knew what it was like to have not. You see, he faced imprisonment, abandonment, poverty, shipwreck, discomfort, attack, suffering. Paul's life was a tale of two extremes. Very rarely do you meet someone who has been through both sides of the spectrum like Paul was financially. Next, Timothy. He's receiving this letter. Timothy is the leader of the church in Ephesus during this time that he gets this letter, and he is Paul's protege. Timothy receives this from his mentor. He's about 30 to maybe 40 years old, which honestly, if he's in his 30s, like leading a church, a group of people, any organization, like that's a young leader even today. And so Paul is giving Timothy as much wisdom as he possibly can based on the experiences that Paul has had, not just in his life, but in his experiences of following Jesus, which leads us to the church in the city that Timothy was living within. It's Ephesus, and oh, good old Ephesus. This place was incredibly wealthy. It was politically and culturally influential, not just in the area, but to the whole Roman Empire. You see, Rome had hubs of commerce and political power there, and the Ephesian people experienced the effects of having access to that. They had wealth, they had influence that led to lots of comfort for that day and age, but it also then creates vast socioeconomic divides between the haves and the have-nots, and a deep-seated cultural tone of doing everything you can to have and definitely not have not. So you need to do everything you can to have power, wealth, status, money, and that sounds nothing like today, right? Thank you for getting the joke. It sounds nothing like what you and I have to deal with today, right? Man, I wish there was just something so relevant. So Paul, he knows what success looks like, and he knows what wealth looks like at a personal level. Writes this letter to his close friend Timothy about the pitfalls of letting money out of its place. Godliness without contentment, or with contentment, is great gain. You see, he knew that without proper care, money will end up dictating your relationships to yourself, to others, your work, your time, God himself. Ultimately, money will demand your complete devotion. Paul words it this way to Timothy. He says, love. But it's not that money is bad. Like as a concept, as a thing that we have in our life, money is not bad. And it's not that wanting and having are bad things. What Paul is warning us of is that the love that money demands of us is the root of all kinds of evil. And notice that he says all kinds of evil and not just flat out evil. He's not telling us that wealth and money, things, experiences, having is bad. It's when we don't define the relationship that we have to the things that money can help get us, that money starts demanding our love and our devotion. All kinds of evil things happen within us. And so how would you know if that evil is happening? How would you know that you're discontent? Because if we're being honest, it can be sneaky. Because discontentment often disguises itself as ambition, as stress. Maybe you're like me, it's like, it's just how life is. Here's some ways to know. You ready? Maybe you're the type of person who's always looking for the next thing. Better job, more money, a bigger house. The type of person that satisfaction is always just out of reach, right? Maybe that's you. Maybe gratitude feels hard. Maybe you're so focused on what's missing that you're actually missing out on what already is. Maybe that's you. Maybe you compare yourself constantly. Social media doesn't help that, if we're being honest here. Maybe it's that feeling of like someone always seems to have it better than you, and I'm mad about it. Maybe you tend to overspend or overwork, try to fill a void with like stuff, accolades, success. Maybe you're the type of person who struggles to celebrate others' wins. Instead of honoring success in others, like it just stings and honestly feels kind of personal. Maybe joy feels conditional and someday. Maybe your circumstances are dictating your state emotionally, relationally, and mentally. If any of those seem to hit you or hit at anything within you, you might be discontent. I might be discontent. So, what do you do with that? Well, this is the movement, right? When contentment sets the pace, money finds its place. Don't let your money dictate how you relate to the things in your life, how you relate to it even. Let contentment start setting the pace for that. And you might be sitting here feeling like, okay, great. So what am I supposed to do now? Like, that sounds super nice. I would love to just not want things and need things and have things or whatever. Like, here's the best part. I'm super practical. Paul's super pragmatic. We both want to help you. So Paul goes on and he says it this way. But you, man of God, he's talking to Timothy, but really he's talking to me, he's talking to you. So you, man of God, flee from all of this. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Fight the good fight of the faith. Paul encourages Timothy, and honestly, he's encouraging you and I who follow Jesus specifically to change our pursuits, to not let money be the thing that sets the pace for how we relate to the world, but instead to actually relate to it in a way that is trying to pursue righteousness and godliness and faith and love and endurance and gentleness. And you might be a little bit like me, that when I say that, it feels like, well, that doesn't sound very fun. I can't go out to eat on my righteousness. My vacation will not pay itself off of my gentleness. Maybe you're like me in my own cynicism, and you might be feeling this way. It sounds like you, me, and Paul, and honestly, maybe even God, like, you don't want me to have anything that I'd really want. Maybe it even feels like this, or you felt this before. Like, hey, when you tell me to be content, it just kind of feels like you're judging me for wanting stuff. It kind of feels like you just want me to settle for mediocrity. Here's what I know. And here's how Paul is encouraging us in our relationship to money to wrestle with things, is that contentment isn't settling. It's actually strength. It's security. It's true gain. So let's come back to my life for a minute. I'm an open book. I told you all our house is feeling a little cramped. a little small, a little not quite what I wish it was, but there are so many awesome, like really shiny new houses in our area. Zillow and the Realtor app tell me like every 8 minutes it feels like. So like I'm getting those notifications. It gets that those apps get a lot of our attention, right? And then a mortgage broker actually gets a lot of our attention. And then we give a lot of attention to each other to navigate like, okay, like it's gonna be tight and we're gonna have to muscle up, but like, oh, we can sacrifice this and this and this. And honestly, we figured out how we're gonna do it, and it was gonna be crazy and a giant step up in some ways. And ultimately, Jess and I both stopped one day. And we had to ask ourselves, like, why are we doing this? Why do we want bigger, shinier? One of the intellectually honest parts is like, why do we want a bigger backyard? We all have pollen allergies. Why were we so willing? And this is where it got really real for us. Why are we so willing to redirect so much of our budget at the cost of some things that gave us purpose? So much of our money that would sacrifice short-term and honestly long-term, not just desires, but goals. And it was because money had gotten it out of its place. It was because money was actually setting the pace for how we were relating to that thing. And the honesty of this is like when we first came to the realization that this wasn't right. Like it wasn't like some switch flipped and it was like, I'm magically happy about this. Like, I'm super glad that this is where we've been. No, it felt like we were gonna live in a hut for the rest of our lives. And we were gonna be miserable. Like, oh, why can't we have nice things too? And like, it felt like frustration. It felt like disappointment, if I'm being honest, in myself, with work, with God. But as we assessed our relationship to our money and actually let contentment start leading the conversation, our perceptions began to change. You see, it takes strength to be content because it forces you to rein in yourself and your money, but it also gives you strength. You see, when Jess and I started looking at our home from a perspective of contentment, we started to see the things that we loved and maybe new things that we didn't know we loved. You see, like our home is a safe place for us, for our kids. It's a great neighborhood. It's close to our friends and our family, and gosh, that's more important to us now than it's ever been. So when the next round of Realtor and Zillow app notifications popped up about homes in your area that have been on the market for 8 whole minutes, act now. Like I had the strength to not let money start driving me down the pace that it wanted to set. And here's the intellectual honesty, right? I turned off the notifications. I mean, genuinely, it says in my manuscript, I'm not kidding, maybe you need to do that too with something. Like, honestly, if we're gonna force ourselves into a place where discontentment is literally going to notify us, turn them off. Just turn them off. It's gonna save you. Contentment's also security. It's a security because you've just decided. But it's also security for tomorrow. It's always having a home base that you get to go back to. So when I do get the cravings, like the biggers, the shiniers, the wants, I can always come back to the choice that Jess and I have made to let contentment set the pace. And I can be confident in tomorrow and the path that we're on. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to change the path at some point. We all have the opportunity to do that. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to take a risk. We're not going to change our goals. But this is the real power of this, is that I'm not going to let money decide that for me. I'm going to let the things that matter decide that for me. And then let money actually be in its right place to be a tool in those moments. And contentment is true gain. It's a weird statement, I get it. But I genuinely mean it. Paul says it in the verse, right? When you aren't chasing money, when you don't love it, you get righteousness, godliness, love, faith, endurance, gentleness. Like those are the things that are worth chasing after. And you and I both know it because they're the things that ultimately matter in the end. And think about it like this. Like think about the last funeral that you attended. Think about the words that were said, not during the service, but in the conversations around it and afterwards. They almost never sound like this, right? His house was just so big. Her portfolio was so diverse and so impressive. They just had so much money, and it was my favorite thing about them. I'm going to miss that. If you have been to a funeral that's like that, run away from those people. The things in life that matter are the things that Paul says that we should pursue: righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness, the things that you want said about you when you are not in the room or even in front of the people that you're at. And so Paul then gives a charge to Timothy, but it's also a charge for me to you. It's a charge for me to me, if I'm being honest. It's a charge for you to you. He says it like this: command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but put your hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. And to be intellectually honest with all of you, you and I, compared to most of the historic world, but the modern world even, are rich. I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable or you don't like feeling that, but we are in the haves category. About 20% of the global population live in inadequate housing. I have already confessed I have a home. I have a house. I have a house for my car. And I have a smaller house out back for my lawnmower. I'm on the hook. I am rich. We are on the hook, especially if you follow Jesus. So my friends, the message for me, the message for you, do not put your hope in wealth. Don't be arrogant about what you have. Instead, put your hope in God. Use what you have to do good in the world, to be generous, because God has given you and I the means to do so. And in doing so, you are actually living in the way that God intended life to be, living like Jesus would live. So then, when you do that, what? What does that actually look like? Because sometimes it can feel vague. So genuinely, what does that look like with skin on? It's the story of a single mom who sticks to her budget so that she can turn down extra shifts on Sundays to spend that time with her daughter. See, it's not just trying to have more, because she doesn't have much, but it's actually trying to have more of what matters. It's the guy who cheers for his friends who made the varsity team, even when he didn't. He doesn't feel the need to power up to prove anything, to buy the new shoes, get a trainer. No, he knows who he is and he's not in a hurry to prove it. It's that retired couple, and you can probably picture one, right? They live in a modest home. They eat simple meals. They sit on the porch together every night. They smile easily. And it's not because their life is perfect. It's just because it's enough. It's the guy in his 30s who has a loving family and a promising career, and he actually just turned down a promotion. And it's actually because it would just mean more hours in the office, and I don't know that I want to do that. I don't know that I want to pay the cost of that. And it's not that he's against upward mobility. It's just that it's not worth the short-term loss or the long-term loss. So then, how would you let contentment set the pace so that money can find its place today? We're going to break it down. 100% of you in the room, myself included, we need to do this week. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being aggressively discontent and 10 being everything is perfect here. Where's your contentment with the 5 things that Dr. Arthur Brooks from Harvard said in the beginning of this message in that video that you can do with your money? How's your contentment with your stuff, your experiences, your time, your generosity, your saving. If you're on the extremes of that scale, just shooting from the hip here, the ones and the tens of the world, I'm going to tell you to just start again. Because 10, come on, no one's got a perfect relationship with any of those things. In the same way, no relationship with those things is so broken that it cannot be fixed. But if you're like me, if you're like a 5 or below, why? Is there something about your relationship that with that thing that actually needs to change? Or is it a case of letting money be out of its place? For 50% of us in the room, myself included, so you can join me in doing this step here, we need to do legacy planning, or maybe you've heard it called estate planning. You see, we have a free seminar coming up, and it's with a trusted friend of ours here at Suncrest called Christian Financial Resources. And here's why 50% of us in the room need to do this. You ready? Here's numbers financial advice. You ready? This is the only numbers financial advice I will ever give you. You ready? It's free. $0. Boom, you're welcome. But 2, it actually helps you map the course of your relationship with your money. It's practical. It helps you process some of the great things about your life, your wealth, and honestly your kids if you have them. But 3, actually helps you acknowledge, like Paul said, that wealth is just so uncertain. And the honesty of you and I aren't going to be able to bring it with us when we're gone. It actually forces our eyes and our minds and our hearts forward. And that's not meant to be scary or fear-mongering, what's going to happen to your stuff. No, this planning, legacy planning, it just allows us to acknowledge our relationship to money in a long-term view and in a significant way. So here's what I need you to understand. Space is limited for the in-person part of this. So it might even be filled right now. We've had people signing up all day. But there is room for all of you on the internet, turns out. So I will be on the virtual seminar through Zoom. You can sign up for that by scanning the QR code on the seat back in front of you and pressing the legacy planning button. I genuinely hope that 50% of you are in there with me. So, sound good? Lastly, 30% of you in this room, you need to do a hard reset, which isn't judging, it's just true. 30% of you need to do a hard reset, and Budget Boot Camp is the step for you. And here's the other side of this. This session is currently full, but we are starting signups and a wait list for either if spots open up or for the next round of it that we will get started as soon as we possibly can. And you can join that wait list if you're someone who needs a reset by scanning that QR code on the seat back in front of you and pressing the Budget Boot Camp button. My friends, when contentment sets the pace, money, it really does find its place. It's true. It was true thousands of years ago. It's why Paul wrote to Timothy so confidently, and it's still true today in my life, and it can be in yours. And I hope that you and I can confidently say in the coming weeks, I'm starting to feel content.
Well, I really hope that was helpful for integrating faith with life. Listen, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I'd love to have you join us in person. Head over to suncrest.org and plan your visit.